Hello everybody and welcome to another video of DIY investing. For today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the two scenarios that I see inside of the market, how any sort of move inside of the market is a major opportunity to position ourselves for the coming bull cycle, and how I'm personally going to position myself to capture the majority of this value if and when we see one more drop or if the market actually bottoms here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and with that being said, let's jump right into it today. So to start off this video, we're going to be diving into the shorter time frames, and I'm going to be breaking down exactly how I think the best strategies to play this market are going to be. We only have two scenarios. We're either going to see one more drop or the market bottom is already in. I think that we have seen enough bearish sentiment that could dictate that the market bottom could be in, even though the PA itself looks pretty bearish. And that's the big thing. That's why I say that it's good to plan for either scenario, because in the time where there's uncertainty in the market, where we don't really know which direction it's going to take, the best strategy is to plan for both. If we go lower, have money on the sidelines ready to buy. If we bottom now, already have been accumulating or at least have exposure to specific altcoins that you're watching. If you have specific altcoins on your radar that you've been watching for, altcoins that you really have a good hunch going into the next bull cycle, and you don't have any exposure at all, then maybe that is more risky than just simply taking a little bit of a position now and then waiting in case we get a drop. If we get the drop, buy more. If we don't get the drop, then at least you're already in. That's one of the big things that I see a lot of people do, especially when we get closer towards the bottom of the bear market. A lot of people are just simply going to be too scared to accumulate it all, and they're going to get this idea in their head that they're going to nail the exact bottom. Well, the market keeps dropping. They keep telling themselves that the bottom is close, and then they end up just not ever buying at all, and they wait until, the market maybe makes one more low, and then they think to themselves, oh, no, I'm going to buy lower. It never comes, and then the market rebounds back to the upside, and then those people end up missing out. I've seen it happen a number of times. I did it for myself all the way back into my first bear market. I was watching Bitcoin, ready to buy, dropped to $3,200. I did accumulate a small amount, but it was like, in my head, I was like, oh man, this thing's going to drop lower. I could buy at $1,800, and I could get a few Bitcoin at that point. Obviously, that never happened, and then that was a big learning experience for me personally. And so I say this as just somebody who's been through the bear markets, going in 6 years now in crypto. I've seen this play out a number of times in the years past. And now that we're kind of in this same moment of time, I think that the best strategy is simply to plan for both scenario. When we look at things from a PA perspective, we know that the trend is down. We've been in this downtrend for the majority of this year. Now, on top of that, on the shorter time frames, we know that we did just technically break below a support and flip it as resistance. And so there is obviously the case that can be made that we have one more final sell-off to be had. And if that's the case, it will be one massive sell-off, in my opinion. And this is kind of where I think that we'll end up finding somewhat of a bottom, is around $500 million to about $438 million in market cap. That's personally where I see as our only real support level if in fact we do decide to drop for one more low. And so if we do get this one drop, it will be such a big drop that you will want to have some money on the sidelines to accumulate if we do get it. But at the same time, if you're somebody that hasn't been accumulating throughout here, there's a number of altcoins that have actually held support, as indicated by my video yesterday that we talked about. There's a number of altcoins that have held above their June support right here. When the whole market capitulated here in mid-June, and we kind of started building somewhat of a foundational base of support, a lot of altcoins, even with the FTX collapse and Bitcoin making a lower low, many altcoins held above and they actually trended up like this, right? And so if that's the case, then there's a case to be made, or at least an argument to be made, that there's a number of altcoins that are going to hold up much better than Bitcoin, or they could potentially be telling the story of what Bitcoin is going to do. If there's a number of altcoins that are holding support above their June lows, they're continuing to build a base, that tells me that there could be an argument to be made that maybe the bottom is actually in, and this entire collapse that we saw below support could actually end up being a bear trap. And in the same way that this could be a bear trap, I always love to share with you guys one specific chart, because I've seen this exact pattern play out so many times in years past for Bitcoin. And I just think it's really important that we consider this, because this is a pattern that I've seen altcoins play out every single bear market. I'm seeing altcoins doing this exact same setup today once again. And it is still something that we need to at least consider when it comes to watching what Bitcoin is doing. And this is the 2015 double bottom formation. Bitcoin rallied down, we made a capitulation at the bottom of our bear market, and then we went through this double bottom formation. We reclaimed the range lows, we get rejected at resistance, come back down to the midpoint, rally back up, reject at resistance, and then the secondary rejection leads to a final capitulation that comes back down to retest our lowest low. And that was right here, right? And then that was ultimately what set us in for a final bear trap and the breakout into our new bull trend. And I bring this up with you guys because of the fact I've seen so many times this exact same pattern play out, and I'm seeing it happening again as it stands right now. I've seen a number of altcoins make this exact same pattern, and that's DYDX. And this is what we talked about in yesterday's video. We talked about this potential where I've seen this happen so many times that I get a lot of confidence when it comes to me willing to buy at these low points where everybody thinks that the market's going to collapse, where everybody thinks that this is just going to go for another low. Oftentimes it creates massive bear traps, and this is the opportune time to get back into the market before the whole market bounces. And so I say that as a way that this entire consolidation that we're seeing here inside of Bitcoin could very easily be the exact same pattern that I've seen play out a number of times in years past. Keep in mind, guys, that our lowest low, we technically are holding support above it, right? Yes, we're technically below the midpoint, and we have rejected off of this midpoint. But if we're looking at things from the very bare bones of a range, we are sitting on the very last line of support, which is the wick of our June low, right? And so I'm not saying that the PA makes it look really bullish, because when I look at the PA, it looks bearish. This just looks like something that's going to break down. But what I say, why I bring this up to you guys is because I have seen this exact pattern play out, and I have seen this where everybody thinks it's going to break down, where we crash through the midpoint support of our range. We flip it as resistance. I've seen this pattern play out where it has turned into a bull trap. And so that's why I say, nobody's going to nail the exact bottom. If you think that you're going to nail the exact bottom, you're going to miss out on the bottom entirely, and the whole market's going to leave you behind. So it's not a bad time to be buying right now. That's why I say plan for either scenario. If we get one more low, great. That's going to be a big drop that we can capitalize on heavily. However, if this ends up just being a big bear trap and the whole FTX collapse just ends up being a bear trap and deviation from our bigger trend, then at that point you will have missed the entire opportunity to accumulate at the range lows. And that to me is, I don't know why you would do that. For me, I've been accumulating heavily, especially when we got this capitulation in June. I bought a number of different altcoins. As many altcoins came back down and retested their range, lows after the FTX collapse, I accumulated some more. I'm ready and willing, if we do manage to make one more final low, I'm going to do my part and accumulate even more at that point, because I don't think we're going to last long. If we get a lower low, it's going to look like this. A massive sell-off, and then I would expect a run all the way back up to basically a little over 1 trillion, pretty much to the high point that we made in August, and then we would probably come back down something like this. And so when I say this as a way because a lot of people are going to miss out on this in the same ways that I missed out on my very first bear market, and I could have had the opportunity to buy a bunch of crypto at the very bottom of 2018. I did manage to buy some, but looking back on it, I was super pissed at myself because Bitcoin went straight to 14K out of that move, right? And so that's why I say, guys, if we have another one of these where we, don't mess around here for long, and then the move back up to the upside to start our new trend takes a lot of people by surprise, you don't want to miss out on that, especially if you get the opportunity to accumulate. No one's going to know the exact bottom. The only thing that we can do if this sell-off even happens, because we don't even know if it's going to happen, the only thing that we can do is simply be willing to accumulate and have a plan in place prepared for either scenario. Now, one of the big things I wanted to share with you guys as well is talking about the Bitcoin dominance and kind of how bear market bottoms have stacked up. What is the best things that we should be looking to accumulate while we're at the low point of the cycle? And I like to share with you guys this chart because this is kind of encompassing of our entire trend of Bitcoin and the altcoin dominance as well. And so What we're going to be looking at here is the fact that throughout our entire bear market, ever since Bitcoin topped at about 65,000, and then we rallied up to 69,000 again, ever since Bitcoin made its peak at 65 and then 69 here, or I should say 69 was right here, we've been just consolidating inside of this range. We've just been bouncing back and forth off of this range. And so one of the things I want you guys to remember is how Bitcoin actually stacked up inside of our last bear market. Bitcoin bottomed at $3,200 right here, right? And then we kind of pulled back a little bit, but we were pretty much just consolidating inside of this bull flag. And then at the very end of the bull flag, right here, this was when Bitcoin actually left 3,200 and started breaking out and going to 5,000. This was the very beginning of our new bull trend. And so we saw what Bitcoin did. As Bitcoin rallied up to 14K, we actually saw that the Bitcoin dominance continued to break out. And that was ultimately what led us to a top. If we come over here and look at Bitcoin, this is kind of what I'm talking about. The very low point right here, this is the same as right here, right? And so that was where we started breaking out. Once Bitcoin started the very new beginning of its bull trend, we broke out of this accumulation range right here. At this point, that was when we started to see a lot of money flooding back into Bitcoin, and we actually saw Bitcoin dominance rise substantially. When Bitcoin rallied from 4,000 all the way up to 14K to that top, what we actually saw was the Bitcoin dominance rose very substantially, and that was what led us to a top inside of the Bitcoin dominance, right? And so as a rule of thumb, one thing that we have seen at the very beginning of new bull trends for Bitcoin, when Bitcoin first breaks out of its new bull cycle, or I should say when Bitcoin first breaks out into the new bull trend, what ends up happening is it ends up actually outperforming altcoins in the short term. And so generally what the best investment is to buy at the bottom of the bear market has been Bitcoin. Bitcoin always leads the cycles. And so if you're looking at what to accumulate right now, you know, I can't really say specifically, but in years past, Bitcoin has been the driver of value, and it always leads the bull cycles. I'm not saying that it can't and that trend can't change, especially when we come over here and take a look at the ETH dominance chart. The one reason why I say that this cycle could be a little bit different is because when we look at the Ethereum dominance, which is basically the same as the altcoin dominance chart, we notice that this chart looks very similar to this chart. The only difference is it's just inverted. And if we invert this chart, this is actually what the altcoin dominance chart completely looks like, right? And so we can see that the altcoins, this entire bear market, we've pretty much just been consolidating above or right at the previous all-time highs. And in the same way that Bitcoin's kind of been ping-ponging back and forth, the altcoins have been ping-ponging back and forth. We're doing this right at a major previous all-time high. And so I'm not saying that Bitcoin can't have one more final spill, especially we can have one more spill to at least this resistance down here. I wouldn't be surprised if we rallied back down here and retested this one final time. But the thing is, guys, if we end up having another one of these events where, you know, Bitcoin leads the way, we start breaking out, and the Bitcoin dominance actually starts leading the way as well. If we end up seeing that, I wouldn't be surprised to see this at the very least retest the point of our range. And if we invert this, this is what I mean. I wouldn't be surprised to see us retest the high point of our resistance like we've done a number of times so far this bear market. But then at the same way that I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin dominance kind of lead the show, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin dominance actually break out, sweep the range highs, retest upwards of 55% dominance, and then begin kind of the next major drop inside of our bear market, right? That's kind of what I see happening inside of the charts. That's what the charts are telling me. I have seen periods inside of bear market bottoms where Bitcoin starts leading the charge. It starts outperforming altcoins. And inside of those moves, oftentimes if there's a continuous base or a range that we're in, oftentimes we'll clear the range and kind of sweep the highs. In the same way that we kind of did here. Bitcoin was consolidating throughout our entire accumulation range. Bitcoin bottomed at 3,200 here. We consolidated throughout this range. And then once Bitcoin actually began the new trend, we ended up getting one more final impulse here of outperformance against the altcoins. And so it's hard to say because of the fact that our current bear market consolidation just looks really different, right? In 2017, we had this massive run inside of the altcoins that bled the Bitcoin dominance substantially. And then throughout our entire bear market, we were literally just uptrending against that massive move, right? And so we ended up making 5 impulse waves. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And that was how our last bear market looked. We had 5 impulse waves after a massive breakdown of the Bitcoin dominance. Inside of our current bear market, we haven't seen that, right? Our current bear market has been us just consolidating inside of this range. This was when Bitcoin hit 65,000. This, I believe, right here was when Bitcoin hit 69,000. And so we haven't even made a higher high. We've just been bouncing inside of this range literally the entire time since Bitcoin's topped. This is happening as we're consolidating above basically the all-time lows of the Bitcoin dominance. And once again, guys, if we invert this, it looks the same as the altcoin dominance. That's the exact same chart. And so what we're going to be watching for is how the market is going to react. In years past, what we've seen is Bitcoin outperforms. If that's the case, we would expect that this would drop, or I should say, it would rise up to the resistance. And I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin dominance is going to rise in the short term in the new beginning of our bull trend. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually ended up sweeping above the range highs, rally upwards of about mid 55%, and then kind of doing something like this before, something like this. Kind of how we topped here with Bitcoin dominance, altcoins were outperforming, and then we kind of got one final sweep that even cleared above our range highs. I wouldn't be surprised to see another one of those because that's something that happens oftentimes inside of the Bitcoin trend. Our highest dominance that we could ever be is 0%, meaning Bitcoin completely dies. That's not even going to happen. I wouldn't even expect Bitcoin dominance to drop below 5%. Probably not even below 10%. And so for me, where I'm targeting for our next bull cycle is pretty much 20 to 10% dominance. If we're going to see a big alt run, it's going to be the last one that we see. And that's just kind of the way that the market looks to me. With our 2017 alt run, capping at 35%, I don't really see with us being in this entire bear market, even if we come all the way back down and drop and make one more low, we're still holding above the previous all-time highs of the 2018 or cycle top of 2018, right? And so there's only so much room that these altcoins can move. What it looks like to me, anyways, it looks like we're setting up for a truly monumental alt season. And if that's the case, I think that this is going to be a true blow-off top for altcoins. I don't really think that there's going to be a whole lot more trending that they're going to be doing in the long term, because I'm looking at the overall market cycle of Bitcoin as being a point where we're about at mainstream adoption. There's not going to be any bubble phases after we see true mainstream, because there's going to be one final bubble. It's the big blow-off top, the ending of all euphoric cycles and all of the bubbles for Bitcoin, before Bitcoin starts to become much more of a stable asset like gold or silver. And so when I look at this chart, I think that we are setting up for a truly massive alt season. And what we look over here inside of the charts is if we get one more sell-off back to the range lows or not, it doesn't matter. I think that with this final rally, this will be the final one of the altcoins, and it'll be the true cycle top of altcoin dominance. There's not a way I see personally that the Bitcoin dominance is just going to bleed to zero. I don't foresee this just continuing to trend up because the majority of altcoins are garbage. Bitcoin has always been the store of value. Bitcoin has always been the leader. Bitcoin is always the crypto that we know is going to be the one that gets mainstream adoption. Many of these altcoins are complete crap. Many of these altcoins are literally just copying the exact same thing as Ethereum. We have 25 different Ethereums inside of the market. Most of them all just suck at the end of the day. And so I don't ever see a point in the future after this coming cycle where altcoins are going to be stronger than Bitcoin. I think that this is truly going to lead us to a major topping point inside of the altcoin dominance. And that's why I look at this next cycle as being so euphoric is because if what we're seeing right now is pinpointing to us having a truly massive cycle top here for our next cycle, and what we're looking at is the Bitcoin or the altcoin dominance potentially being at a major topping point where it's probably never going to be higher than this coming cycle top. If that's the case, guys, then I really do think that the charts are telling us that this next cycle could be massive. And if we're going to see one true outperformance of the altcoins, it would make sense that we would be creating this exact same pattern again right before we made that 2017 cycle top, right? Because as it stands, Bitcoin dominance has been consolidating above the all-time lows. We've been in this range. Even if we clear the range highs, this is still a long-term downtrend, and I don't think it's going to change anything. I believe that we have one more final sell-off that will take us into the very end of the altcoin craze. I don't foresee a point in which altcoins are ever going to get more hyped. Yes, I believe that many altcoins will stick around. The ones that are truly going to be fixing a lot of things in blockchain, those are going to be the ones that stick around. But as a rule of thumb, as far as what we've seen with meme coins and all this stuff, I really don't think that there's going to be another cycle after this next one that's coming that will ever mimic or even get close to being as big. With what we saw in our last cycle, meme coins starting to take off, DeFi took off, and we saw all these random food coins that provided no value besides being Ponzi schemes. I really don't think that there's going to be another cycle that gets more hyped than what we've been seeing up to this point. One final one, that's literally what I'm talking about. I think that this is going to break down, will make a new all-time low, and when that happens, that will be price discovery for altcoins. That will be truly a monumental time, and it'll be the same thing that will lead us into this 2017 type of move. And so that's kind of what I'm watching for when I see the market, guys. I think that we should plan for either scenario. If we get a lower low, great. It's an opportunity to accumulate at a 30, 40, 50% discount. However, if we don't get that low and we end up bottoming fairly soon, I would be really sad had I missed out on accumulating at any of these points, especially considering we've bounced off this range low a million different times. Don't do yourself a disservice by completely missing the bottom if this is the bottom. Also, just plan for either scenario, like I've stated a million times. That's the best thing to do. Have money on the sidelines if we go lower. If we don't go lower and you haven't bought anything, pick your altcoins that you think are just going to be the bangers of the next cycle and at least get some exposure. There's no reason to overcomplicate these things. But anyways, guys, if you found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos. If you guys want to join the Discord server, download my free ebook. Links are in the description for that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.